Welcome to Max, your karate-based martial art channel. What is the best age to start martial art? Any martial art? I think the best time to start here is about 5 or 6. 5 could be a little bit too young. 6 you can probably begin. I reckon as early as possible, but you will see most of the karate clubs have one or few number of instructors, but many students. And if your children is not yet mature enough to line up and follow instructions, do what other students are doing, he or she is probably too young to start, because the teachers, the senseis don't really have time to babysit your child one-on-one. So it can be a bit destructive, and your child probably doesn't pick up anything. But as soon as your child is able to follow instructions, when the teacher says line up, he or she knows how to line up, do a punch, step with the right leg, left leg, and so on. I think it's best to start as soon as you can. If we break it down, if you see somebody who start before age of 10 versus somebody who start after age of 10, you can already see some obvious difference. If you see somebody who start at age 20 and start at age 30, there is a world of difference. I started karate when I was about 14 or 15, and there was already a massive delay compared to my best friend Dan, who started when he was 6. But it's not too late. When you're a teenager, you can still catch up. But when you're close to 30, don't not do it because you are at that age. You can still enjoy it, but if you start age of 30, you'll find there's a lot of things the young guys naturally pick up. You can't. It's like me trying to learn guitar at age 38. I just feel like I'm so uncoordinated. It's like my brain is not telling my finger what it's supposed to be doing, and my finger doesn't do what it's supposed to do because it just can't. And the reason why I say start as early as possible is because of this. They don't just pick up things a lot earlier. I am a strong advocate for competitions, because people who compete on regular basis is way better than those who just train but never compete. If you don't agree with me, I'll challenge you. You compare anyone that just train and grade, so they do great, but versus who both train, grade, and compete. The reason is when you compete, you really put yourself in a situation you have to advance. And the biggest challenge for people who enter competition is fear. I think fear of getting hit. Some people are fear of not winning, but I think that's absolutely wrong, and I'll make another video to explain about that. So let's say if you're starting at age 10, right, or age 12, you will see the different size of the difference in children's weight and height entering the competition. And at age 10 or 12, they can start hitting pretty hard, and it hurts, and children get scared, they want to back down. But if you see people competing age 5 or 6, they are not dangerous. In fact, they look really cute. By the time they reach 10 or 12, they already had 5 to 7 years of experience. They know how to dodge punches, they know how to move their body, their torso to avoid attacks. When they block, they know how to block to avoid impact. They naturally, unconsciously, they just know what to do. These are the things you can't teach. You can teach people how to block this way, the basic movements here, you put your foot here, you put your hand there. But when you are starting to fight in Kumite, it's a completely different story. You don't just move according to this basic movements. You move based on your reaction. It's very rare people fail gradings, but competition is different. You really have to beat the person next to you. You have to beat the next person after that and the person after that. So you really have to work on trying to be the best. In grading, even in freestyle sparring, because your friends is a grading, people usually do it at 70-80%. But in competition, when people throw punches and kicks, they do it at 120%, because they really want to get to the other person. So competition push people above and beyond what they normally do. And if you have enough competition experience, you also train the same way. Whereas people who don't compete, they just grade, they are always working at 60 or 70%, and they always train the same way. So if you look at some of the kids who had experience in competing, look at the way they move versus who just started. And, you know, having all this pressure on you when you're beginning is fine when you're 5 or 6 years old. By the time when you're close to, by the time after you're 10 years old, it can become extremely scary. I've seen many kids crying when they were told to compete. They just don't want to do it. Even the day before competition, they might not be able to sleep. It's just too scary for them. So that's what I mean by starting as early as possible. When things are nice and safe, when it's all about fun, do it. By the time you reach 10 or older, you actually know how to compete. And competition is the next most real thing for self-defense. There's nothing closer to it than a real fight. It's essentially that's what martial art is. If we learn a martial art that really is healthy, that's good. But it's not really a martial art unless it's for it's an art form of combat. So parents, don't fool yourself thinking as long as my kids are in a class, they can do self-defense. It doesn't work that way. Unless they are always practiced in a simulated situation, which means they physically do it as well as they mentally feel that pressure. Facing somebody who is going to bully you, right? Facing danger require you to be able to handle pressure. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you yourself enter one competition, just one, a small local competition, right? And when competition, you can, if you want to play safe, just do a form, a kata. But if you want to be real, do a kumite, freestyle sparring. The moment just before you step on the mat, especially if you don't know who your opponent is, how good they are, feel that feeling. That's the feeling when you're about to face somebody who's going to attack you. And once you step on the mat, look at your opponent and they look at you. And when the judge says start, feel that pressure coming at you when people are trying to defend themselves as well as throwing their punches and kicks at you 100% or 120%. That is what fighting is like. And that feeling, that is a feeling you cannot get from practice with your friends. You don't get that feeling ever practicing in a club with your friends. Pretty much only in the competitions. One great thing I see is people who start early and who can really fight, you will see the way they move is very different. That's how I define skill in fighting, and both mental and physical capability to fight and to defend themselves or other people. Here are some examples of videos of kids fighting someone nearly twice their size and move well without fear. I really admire these kids. I'm not a big guy. I'm 172 centimeters tall. So most of the time, quite often, I compete with people who are a lot taller than me. And, you know, if you are in any serious fight rings like UFC or boxing, there is always weight category. Why? Because, you know, you just can't get a small person to fight a very big person. It's physically with different mass and the longer reach from the taller guy, it just doesn't work. Especially long reach. The reach advantage is so important in fighting. It's a no-brainer. And seeing some of the little ones competing at that level, you just know they have put in the time, put in the effort, and they had the heart for it. They do not have fear. They go for it, and they know what they are doing. That's what martial art is. Well, that's what a big part of what martial art is training your heart. Besides training yourself physically, training your heart and mind. I hope this helps and answer your question. So parents with the kids, get them to start as early as possible and support them at home, do their homework. See you next time.